right. What's going on, everyone? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing and getting ready here for this Friday session. This is a special session for many different reasons. Throughout the course of the session, I'll let you know exactly why. But right now, it's because we're here all together. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am so glad that you are here. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. I feel like we should be starting off this morning, right, with a little old, do you remember CNBC? The markets are in turmoil. Let's go ahead and let's see if we can find them and play that clip over there. Oh, we're gonna start that from the beginning over here. Right? This morning has that type of vibe after seeing this morning's jobs numbers coming in, unemployment rate better than expected. Good news is bad news, and good news is bad news simply because that says that Jerome and company have much more room to continue slamming on the brakes. Employment change up above forecast, and you could see this morning, it probably changed since. This morning, all of a sudden, right after the jobs numbers, an 81% chance of a 75 basis point hike priced into the markets. Let's see where we're at right now. 84, it's going up as the morning progresses. I'm talking about minutes, 84% now chance that we're looking at a 75 basis point hike at the next Fed meeting in November. However, it's true. We are in a data-dependent market. You could see today how drastically and quickly these expectations have been repriced. We're looking next week at two big events. We have Wednesday's FOMC meeting minutes, where we get to find out during last month's meeting, or I should say this month, September's meeting, what was said behind closed doors. And then you're looking at the following day, the CPI. And that bit of data point should really send the markets make or break it time. That is up until we have third quarter earnings coming in soon thereafter. And as we all know, that's kind of the situation we're in. It was brought to my attention in one of the comments yesterday as we were not here. By the way, yesterday we had a really fantastic day. We had a special CTM summit at the summit, and it was really, we were using Andrew's Starlink satellite to go ahead and stream over up in the mountains of Colorado. And it was a really, really, really special time. It really rejuvenated me. It really helped me understand what CTM does for people. And what CTM does for people is not tell them during a particular session, here's what you should buy or sell. Do not have those expectations. Have the expectations that you're here to learn how to be able to maneuver the markets and learn how to manage risk, learn how to spot a favorable entry on a favorable asset, to be able to not only take that entry, but as you take that entry, know how to manage that risk, know where to set your stop loss, know how to size your position, know that once you're into that entry, how to manage that position and how to look for the exit. And we do all that together. And that's not something that while you are watching any one particular session that you might say, oh, I left the session and I went ahead and I sold gold. I mean, truly, you might come away through the session seeing that, oh, well, there was a perfect setup over here like last week, maybe on oil, and you were able to take that setup because of it. And that's you making the decisions. We're here to actually take a look at the markets, analyze them together, and most importantly, teach the skills that you could go ahead and do this yourself. That's what we're here for. We're looking at Bitcoin this morning. Yeah, it was amazing. It was really special. It really just, as did, by the way, as we look at my friend over here, forget the pronunciation, my brother. I remember the day I received the letter from you with some special treasured gifts in it. Even one, and those type of things, they have a great effect on me. They give me the inspiration to keep on pushing, to put the work in with all of you, seeing how what we do here together changes lives. So I think, and yesterday was one of those days as well, also because you don't know. I ran into a friend that hadn't seen him a couple of years, someone I met through CTM, and I had no idea that he's still listening each and every day to the CTM, both sides videos each and every day, and understanding the impact of what we do here together. It's really special, as well as what we were able to do. That's CNBC, like theatric music, and it's that type of day for sure. Dustin, great to see you in here this morning. And we're looking at right now the chart of Bitcoin, and this is coming off of where we left off, and that was a breakout, this trend line break. That trend line goes all the way up, not only here to September, it touches again in April, and then in November at the all-time high. And this was the first time that we've had a trend line break, and you can see that we had a breakout. We came in for a retest, almost a perfect touch of that breakout, resumed off, never making the higher high. Now, as you hear me saying all these things, what's funny about the markets is these type of behaviors are going to repeat over and over and over again. And then we see, after we were not able to make the resumption up, price over here has come back down, and now has also, it's still coming in for a retest though. That's what I want you to get at. And by the way, if you were to clone this line, do you see not that it's being respected over here? Let's do that really quick. I have to get off of the ghost mode over here. Let me just go ahead and do you see that you have bing, 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 that line now also being respected? And that's where we currently are in the market. Now, I don't really want to leave that line in. I just want to show it to you. I'm going to go ahead and actually take it out. Maybe even I could just draw a little bit of a trend line like this, just to show you, or to give us our bearings. And then we have over here, if you were to have taken that trade, you would have had your initial stop loss either under that last swing low before the breakout of the trend line, or the last wick low, which is right over there. Now, I just throw it out there for you because, again, the whole idea over here is to talk about markets together, and to be able to get them, to be able to get you to be able to see, read, and maneuver through them. On this retest over here, you had the breakout, the retest, and then the attempt at a resumption. When it didn't make the resumption up, right? And then you had, for example, today, this high impact news event, these jobs numbers. Everyone was aware of it because I think all of the internet was talking about it. I know we were in advance, so I know you knew about it. Do you think that it might have been pretty smart if you wanted to go ahead and move your stop loss just to break even once you didn't make the resumption prior? It could be. That might be overly defensive, but it's also at the same time pretty smart, and it's just something to think about. And you could see that this breakout, though, is still currently intact, and we find out what happens next. Take a look at this from the log scale. It's not really offering that much of any type of signal right now, and I'm going to keep referring to it, and that's for two reasons. Mostly, and most importantly, although we're seeing this trend line break, and that trend line break coming I'm on the 2-hour time frame with you all. I like it though. Coming all the way from November, right? We talked about again in April, now in September, and then finally the break on the log scale. You see me jump back to the 2-hour. You could see the market structure so well. And then you could see on the log scale that we still have not come close to this major trend line that is above it, a major repair. So we still have lots of caution here, even though you see this trend line break. And we talked about that it might pull a lot of people in. Even if it pulls a lot of people in and then goes out and extends, which is until it breaks down, is the expectation, by the way, that trend line break actually extends out further and winds up being able to resume off there until it breaks down and is proven to be false. But the greater, that might get a lot of people overly bullish, right? The greater concern for me is coming into the more important technical, let's say, line of resistance that above it would even signal a much, much greater all clear. And we're far from all clear. We have even below us over here resistance right ahead that we need to get through. And that's where we are at on the Bitcoin. You can see S&P 500 continues to be well under pressure. And this is, I'm assuming that this big, massive meltdown candle over here was the CPI that came out in September. For me, it was a big surprise, and it was a big surprise because although I expected the headline number to be softer than the prior, and it was 8.3 instead of 8.5. The problem was that everything inside it was rising except for energy, and energy prices were coming off as we were looking not only as the everyone looking towards a global slowdown and or a recession, but more importantly, perhaps was the release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and that was adding extra supply onto the market. That's almost depleted, by the way, and it will be within, I would say, the next month. We saw OPEC came out with a massive production cut, and this, I think this is the one over here. Let me bring this up. This is the Federal Reserve. Maybe it's the one below it. I wanted to bring up, it was in the prior meeting minutes where the Fed was pointing out that, that even though we're seeing headline inflation coming off, we're seeing the price of oil coming off, that could revert backwards. That's my concern going into the end of the year. And I've been speaking about this since the summer, that while we were looking at watching around $119 a barrel, oil entering a sell impulse, and we wrote it down up until recently, my concern was that we would see potentially, let's say, the supply demand catch up to each other and a rising oil price, which is going to mean rising inflation. And that's going to be really, really, really difficult. Unprecedented times ahead. Do not get comfortable. We got a lot to get through. What are we looking at here this morning? We're looking at the DXY, right? And we see a couple of interesting things. Do you see, by the way, how beautifully it came into the support we put in ahead of time here together? It touched on Tuesday. We did that on Monday. Price found the support and has since bounced up into what? Into resistance, right? You could see that we're back towards that resistance. By the way, after bouncing up, this is basic stuff, but the more that you cover it, the more natural it's going to be for you. You could see that after the test of support, price bounces into local resistance, comes off and makes a higher low, and then is able to resume up higher, right? Come back in, and now it is finding resistance, trendline resistance, and we'll see where it goes. If this were to come off, right, you could sell resistance in a downtrend. Are you in a downtrend? So don't forget to zoom out. Don't forget to zoom out and make sure that especially if you find yourself on a smaller time frame, so that you're able to easily see the trend. If you have a young kid in the house, go ahead and bring them over and say, hey, is this going up or is this going down? And they will let you know exactly which way the trend is going. And then you'll be able to make sure that you look to buy off of support in uptrends and sell off resistance in downtrends. And you're going to find your way. Now, this could be, by the way, like we could find resistance here and this could roll over. And if you're aware of that, if you are a day trader and you are on a smaller time frame, and then you're able to go ahead and sell off resistance, obviously you are trading, let me go ahead and just draw in a sell impulse line. As we come into the resistance, you might want to give yourself a little bit of extra. It would be over there for me, right? Below that last swing low, breaking below the trend line, breaking below that last little low. And that would signify perhaps then we're coming back to retest this area over here. But the dollar has every reason to be strong this morning, doesn't it? You could see why I say that is because we are looking at going from pricing in at the beginning of the month, what was, again, around the 80% chance of a 75 basis point hike. That then after the ADP numbers, the jobs numbers earlier in the week went down significantly. And now in a data-dependent market, after the next data release, this has gone back up, and that gives the ability or the reason that you should see the dollar rising in this scenario. Let's take a look across markets as we were off yesterday together, and we see the 10-year exploding up higher today on those rising rate hike expectations. Let's take a look at this where we left it off with that dotted trend line, And I just want to show you or point out a couple of things that you saw price come into the resistance, right? From that resistance, rejected into the support, and then it came back up, right? Let's take a look at that and just follow me over here. And I wonder, because obviously I'm tagging this line, and you can see price respecting it kind of over there. I'm just going to go ahead and lift it up over here to over there and just see what that looked like. And yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. That's a tough one. I don't know. And maybe it would have been better. And I don't know if we just had a little bit of horizontal line over here. And either which way, we are now rightfully breaking up. And I'm going to call that a wash. Not really sure exactly what would have been the best way to go ahead and approach that with some magic lines. Oil continues to rise up off of the last time that we looked at it. And a lot of you were looking at this particular time, not myself. Remember I said I'm standing aside over here as price came back up, broke out of this trend line, came back down in for a retest, was resuming up. And then we had actually on the OPEC cut, like a strong move up, followed by a whipsaw down. It touched the trend line, held as support and came back up. And a lot of you that morning, because we spoke about it, said that this looks like a really good entry and you all took it. I didn't. I stood aside. I'm still on the side. And I just felt like for me, it was FOMO as I was not here on Monday. This would have been the entry that I would have liked. And you know what? It's amazing because that sometimes could be the difference right there. I was looking to put on a position trade. My expectations are that oil into the end of the year have a strong chance of rising, coming off of mostly the fundamentals. When I say fundamentals, it's talking about the ceasing of the drainage of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that extra supply that's being put on the market. We already know from a demand side that demand is low, but at any point in time, China and its zero COVID policy could come back online, and then you would see increased demand. But we also know that the physical supply of oil is very delicate right now. And now you also saw OPEC come out and cut by a massive 2 million barrels a day. All these things suggest that, and then the technicals, that oil should go higher. Nevertheless, I wasn't going to chase it. That when I say that one little small thing could make the difference, I mean, it and truly it could have, right? And in this case, working against me in so much that I'm not participating in it, but notice that there's no FOMO. Let's go ahead and just go ahead and make sure that I have where a breakdown would come into the market. And the reason being I'd be looking for a breakdown would be that if we have a breakdown, I would still expect even a retest into this area. I'm looking for where there's a little bit of support, not just from the trend line, but horizontal. You could see that where we came into that retest. It's a nice little line is there as well. And as long as price, if it did break down and it held in that area over here, that would still signify a really healthy market. Be watching it. I'm still looking for an entry. This is not even a swing trade, but this trade continues to get away from me. And I wish I was participating. You're talking right now a massive move, right? Massive move, and within a week. Ugh, it happens. It truly does. We're looking here at the NASDAQ after that trend line break, coming into the pocket of resistance and tried to fight, right? Came back up again into that pocket of resistance holding, and now clearly smashing down after the breakdown, the retest, and the resumption down. That right there, by the way, for all of you who are watching, for learning, are predators and looking to attack. Check that out, though. It's very clean and clear in so much as that once you had the breakdown over here, right? It was the trend line break, which is important. And then you had the breakdown, the retest into that resistance, and then a resumption down, right? This morning, price must have been up over here, right? If you would have had a sell entry right over there, there are a lot of you who are day trading. I know whether it's the NASDAQ 100, equity markets, mini futures, and this is kind of like a beautiful setup. And whether or not you participated in that this morning or not, again, it's really training yourself. You're out here and you are working out, you're putting the work in, and you're making sure that you are as sharp as you can be as you compete in these capital markets to be able to Greg, yeah, we're for sure after meeting up yesterday. I mean, first of all, it was an impromptu thing. It was put together within 2 days, and it was not meant like it was not an exclusive event whatsoever. It was just, it just happened that people were generally in the same location, and it worked out. And and then we were like, we have to have like put together a real CTM meetup, and we'll figure out where it's going to be. But really, meeting together in person is really important. Really, really important. It was great stuff. We're going to be doing that for sure. The price cap on Russian oil, send the price high. I don't know. I don't really know how that works yet. We're trying to figure out how you could tell someone what price they could sell their oil at, but we'll figure it out. That's awesome. I'm glad that we're here together, all putting the work in on this Friday session. I said it was going to be special, and it's the vibe. It's the vibe because of meeting others in person, connecting with that, and then just being further inspired for what it is that we do here. And I'm looking forward more than ever to where we're going from here today. Really, really exciting. Checking out what's going on over here. I'm looking at the S&P 500. I feel like I'm lacking in an area of resistance. You could see that. You could just see the market respecting from my mouse, right? And if you're new here and some of the things that I'm saying are not familiar with you, it's mostly because that you are new here and you don't yet have enough experience following the way that we analyze the markets together. But always ask a question. And one of the things that I often do is like, I could go back and look at something that happened on Bitcoin in relation to like our strategy, and just like go ahead and ingrain something in my mind. And I take it for granted because I know it, right? But not everyone else, and especially not everyone else who didn't see that one particular session where I presented that findings to everyone. I don't know. There's just a rough example, but we could see over here that was lacking that little bit of awareness as far as that resistance level where price was rejected. But this morning, after coming back down, and then you could see it like found support again. It tested the support line we had in, was up, similar to that entry on the NASDAQ right there, right? That line over there could have been a very good quick entry for those of you that are much more short time minded than myself and looking to kind of take like scalps out of the market. We're looking at gold over here. And what's interesting is that we were watching and waiting to see if we had this trend line break. And what has happened since, right? I'm looking at this since the last time we looked at it, which was Wednesday, right? And so the price on Wednesday must have been somewhere over here. I'm not really sure. Since then, we had this break, but it came into that line of resistance we had. It's not very clear, right? And just jump down a little. And let me just look at that on the 8-hour first with y'all. You know what? Y'all remember we were looking this on log? And I was like, let me jump back to the log. Let me look at that on the 2-hour. And then in looking at that, like, how do you not buy into that? Like, you see the breakout? It looks like a breakout to me, right? Well, Jordan, we don't buy breakouts. We look for a trend line break, and then we look for a retest, and then a resumption off is where we buy, and that has not yet occurred. And by the way, in crypto and on crypto assets, I know the question came up early in the stream about my thoughts on the Link and Bitcoin pair. I'll take a look at that for sure before we get off today. But and I have no idea where it is because I have not looked at that cross since I could remember. We spend a lot of time on the Ethereum Bitcoin cross, but not on anything like the Link Bitcoin. I'd be happy to just take a look at it from a technical standpoint. And you could see that you had an opportunity for a breakout. You could see that very clearly. The horizontal resistance line we drew in, and very good job in drawing it in, by the way, because that's what the market's respecting right now. If it weren't, if price had peaked up a little bit higher and then came in for a retest and not been able to resume up, we would be taking that line and adjusting it to where the market was currently paying attention to. And that would give us, I mean, it's not trying to be right, it's trying to get right. That's where most people go wrong. Like, you don't need to prove yourself right, you need to get right. And that's how you trade the markets. And you can see that we had not only no chance of resumption, again, another chance of a breakout, but again, no retest. What's the market paying attention to down over here, or whatever it was, is now gone, right? Because of the breakdown. But we're wicking down. Gold still seems to be kind of trying its best to hold in there. And at this particular point in time, this resistance getting above it might signal to us that we are indeed seeing some type of opportunity, as gold right now is not in favor whatsoever. We'll keep watching it with interest. If you were looking to sell resistance in a downtrend, right? I'm just trying to see where your opportunity might have been, and true enough, like right over there, right over here, as price came back down, stop over here, of course, still into that trade. That would have been the opportunity, or a second entry right over there. But gold's holding in. It's holding up. So what is silver doing? And then silver over here has a healthy breakout. I missed this with y'all. I wasn't here, but that's a clean breakout coming in then for the retest. The retest found the support on the local horizontal broken resistance, acting as support over here. And this is potentially offering up opportunity. Let's take a look at it. Let's see. I mean, also at the same time, you could see how price, which is normal behavior, it came into the resistance on the breakout. So breakout, retest, looking for a resumption up. Is a resumption above? Do you see me like backing off, and just hear my voice like backing off? Like, the entry seems that like you could be looking for the resumption up, and you could wait for the resumption, which is not only a resumption, it's above that area of resistance. But I'm hesitant. So I would, by the way, what you're trying to do as you look through different instruments that you're particularly interested in trading, and you're looking for that opportunity, you're trying not only to find what signifies a potential entry setup, but you're trying to look for the one that you want to participate in. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why it is, because it seems to me that if we did, I know the markets are under turmoil this morning. I gave you the whole music and everything. But if we were seeing some type of, let's say, entry occurring between gold and silver, for whatever reason, I would feel more comfortable on the gold entry than I would on the silver. I don't know. Maybe it's this massive volatility jumping around, and that volatility begets volatility, and it could come up, strong to the upside. But I don't want to participate in it. I prefer to stand aside, and it's that trade selection is a very, very important part of it. And someone else out there watching this might see the way that we looked at gold and silver together, and they might be like, well, on the way up, silver's leading gold, and I would prefer silver. And that's awesome. There you go. That's how you do it, right? Could boom, 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 boom. That's awesome. I enjoy the format, and I am more inspired than ever to be on this journey with all of you. That's right, Soul with the $. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of sip of my matcha as we get going here today. Is the Russians and Saudis working together at least a good sign? Dean, good, bad, or indifferent, I am not sure. To me, it is a sign of the growing world order, the growing new world order. And it is always changing, and it's changing right now. And what we see is obviously the greater unison of the BRICS, right? We have Brazil, India, China, we have Russia. And also we're now seeing Saudi Arabia grow closer to that alliance, Argentina. And we're just seeing, instead of it being like the U.S. run, we're seeing this different relationships form. Is that good? Is that bad? Right now, I would say that it brings a lot of friction. Like, there is legit war being fought, And that war is both financially, that war is both from a technology standpoint, and that war is obviously kinetic as we see what's happening in the Ukraine. And not just the Ukraine, it is an important battleground right now, but there, I mean, the Saudis are still bombing Yemen, no? And they do it with our weapon or the US's weapons, no? I think so. Anyway, I don't know if it's good or bad or anything like that. I think that we're looking over here is dynamics that point to stronger oil price. I think that I wish I would have. You just sometimes you don't get lucky, and by lucky I mean that like I wasn't here this day. I was traveling with my wife back from a baptism, and what was something that I was kind of setting up, interested in, and would have provided the right entry. As we were able to get on the top, Dean, I think you were there with us, right? I mean, it's a tough one, but I don't know what's going to happen. And look at that, we're coming into that area of resistance right now. So that might offer even a better opportunity. Not a better. This obviously was the best, but if we're able to get up over here and we're able to test that and confirm that broken resistance and that level over here into support, it still might offer opportunity, or it might be better just giving it a little bit of time, being that we still have about a month before we see the drainage of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And if we're seeing I do believe, as we saw today, jobs numbers and that signaling higher expectations of further tightening come out. If the CPI comes in strong again, and then we see all of a sudden the odds of not only a 75 basis point hike priced higher, but even begin pricing in a 100 basis point hike, that might actually send in signals of a greater sign of recession. And we might see in the near term oil come off, right? And whether or not we're even to come back down and test toward this like 82.5 level back towards entry or not, like that could still happen. And for me, being that I missed the trade, and you could learn so much from a missed opportunity as you could from a good trade. For me, it's just, look, I missed it. And I know that a lot of people took this entry and prices extended out further since, and it's, you're already into a free trade. As you come into the next resistance over here now, you have already moved your stop loss now or doing it right now to break even. And you did the right thing. You're in a much better position, a greater position of power than I am on the sidelines. But I'm on the sidelines and I wait and I watch. The weekly candle breakout is very clean too. Let's take a look at the weekly. It has been quite a while since we've been, oh, look at that. And also note too that like the time that I personally became a little bit or very interested in the trade was on the long side was after we came down into that support line. That was our awareness that we did over here at the top that helped also set up that trade. And that's, I think, one piece that's often missed by maybe some people out there participating in the markets with us is that things take time to develop. In that some people are looking for, what do I buy? What do I sell in this moment today? But really it's about like continually being aware, making observations, putting the work in, and then it adds up into when it's very clear that it's time to go ahead and walk over and pick up the money. And in this case, this is going back to June, right? This is a few months before the work done earlier leads to the right, Dave, leads to the opportunity there for the trade. And Dave, that comes off of just the serendipity of meeting up with CTM in person, and then the inspiration that it brings, and maybe potentially also like the day off of not being here and live. And I don't know, it's a combination of things for sure. Let's take a quick look at the cross of Link and Bitcoin. I know that we wanted to do that this morning, and I just want to take a quick look at that with you all. So I'm going to jump over here and take a look at Link, Bitcoin. And I'm going to start, well, I'm on the weekly. I was going to go to a bigger time frame. So I'd say, oh, let me come out to a bigger time frame with you. We're already on a big time frame. And I mean, this is going sideways. It continues to go sideways. That's the first observation. Second observation is similar to what we were looking at over on the S&P 500. And that's when we were talking about, I guess I was doing that on one of the others. Let me find it. Nah, anyway, I don't know. But I was this morning early in the session, we were talking about, I don't know where we are now. I lost my bearings, but we were talking about that break off of the resistance, and this chart just looks different. So I digress, and I don't know where we are, but you all know who've been here for the whole session. So we'll leave it at that. And it brings up a similar situation. And then I look at this line of support and how long these support and resistance lines have been here. I have no idea. I don't remember. And I wonder if they give you any type of date, but it doesn't. So I have no idea how long they've been there or anything like that. But if I see over here, clearly there's also another line, a local line of resistance over there. And same concept over there, breaking down below this. Well, I'd actually want to get on the Bitcoin side. This has been in ever since 2020, December of 2020, in a downtrend, coming off resistance, trend line break. It looks like a good opportunity to sell, right? And then I could also say, well, it's also at the same time, it's making its way and it's holding above support. And if it's able to hold this support, look at that trend line over there, though. That's even a better placement now on the daily, like that. And then I could say, all right, well, but it's not interesting for me. It's sideways. It's not really something that I wish to participate in. And, you know, that's mostly it. It's just not an instrument of choice. I don't know how helpful that for you is, but I could say there's a world of opportunity out there. There's a litany of crypto pairs to trade from. For me, myself, Chainlink Bitcoin is not offering any of that opportunity. And then just to let you know, often what happens then is you'll see like maybe over here, Link will find support and then like jump up into this resistance. And be like, Jordan, that was like, you know, a 100% return you missed out on. You know, there was a 2x. Where were you? But for me, it's not interesting. And I'm just letting you know that. And I don't know if that helps you at all. I hope, but that's the way I see it. And that's where I got to go from. Let's take a look also a little bit what we're seeing here on Ethereum, right? Ethereum continues to run sideways, right? And is not picking up anything. Didn't pick up any entries on the long side, while Bitcoin did over the last week. And Ethereum actually very close over here to rolling over, potentially giving us a short signal. Bitcoin, I believe, still holding on to its long entry from last week. Maybe stop that. I'll be able to tell you in 1 second. It would be very, very close. But we did look at Bitcoin from the perspective of CTM 1.0 style, and that was breakout, retest, still holding. And we showed that second trend line that was still holding. On the sell side, you could see that there's still a little opportunity over here before we see a breakdown. This particular situation, on the upside, Bitcoin continues to look a little bit more healthy than Ethereum. And it does look like if we were to roll over, that Ethereum would lead to the downside. And if that happens, I wonder if we'd work on closing this gap a little, this gap that has maintained itself, unlike in previous bear market where that gap was closed. That's why people look for Bitcoin dominance to go ahead and strengthen at this time of cycle. I don't know that it will. I think that if we have any type of risk on rally, that Ethereum will continue to hold the gap to the upside. I think that if you see a risk on rally and Ethereum is not leading, that's a signal that it's not really any type of risk rally taking hold. And the question is, on the downside, if we see a next leg down, does Ethereum catch up a little bit, and does that Bitcoin dominance really hold, right? So let's see. I wanted to take a look at whether that trade is still yeah, it's still hanging on by a thread. So really good stop loss placement by CTM 2.0, in so much that technically from a CTM 1.0 standpoint, the trade is still active. And you can see Ethereum is getting you can see it clear over here. You can see Ethereum is getting very close to triggering a sell signal over here. Why, even if Bitcoin were to exit, and we got a pending exit coming up in 2 hours, even if the stop loss is not hit, even if Bitcoin exits, it would be neutral, waiting for either a long or a short to develop, where we're looking here for Ethereum, a potential short signal to occur. And I think that's the session. I think this is one of my favorite sessions so far since we've got together doing these public live streams once again. And we're light on likes. So the deal is I'm happy to hear and spend the time. And actually, it's a great joy of mine. It's really fulfilling. But if you enjoy the session at all, if at any point you are grateful that we're here together, just take a moment and hit the like button. If you're on that mobile device as we get off here today, please go ahead. It was a good session. Show the love, spread the love, give us help with the Google algorithm. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. Craig, that was, maybe I should put out yesterday's like CTM Summit video on the public side. And what was interesting about it, or for me, was like the first day we got together and all met up, and after getting lunch and having some coffee and talking about everything, I truly wish, we all wish, that those conversations were taped. And then, again, just through the rest of the night, and then the next day when we were recording, and the way we talked about things was all beautiful. But that's one of the things we talked about, or it was expressed to me, how CTM 2.0, knowing when to enter the trade, knowing how long to be in it, and when to exit, and doing that with that emotion, how much it means, and what it affords people is really beautiful. But we also talked about how a combination, once again, we don't talk about that often, of CTM 1.0, which has phenomenal entries, and then combining it because of those CTM 2.0 entries, so on signal could offer something that really valuable. And that's the thing, though, is that we have such an incredible base foundation to be executing off of. We get to kind of continue to grow, to kind of continue to work out what will be the future, right, of everything that we do together. And at the same time, having an extraordinary strategy in place. Why we do that. It's a really beautiful place to be. Jamie, watch the session from beginning to end if you get the opportunity today. If you're, as you're doing whatever you're going about your day, it's, a lot of people, Derek was telling me he'll be cooking in the kitchen, and his daughter will be there, and she's in 5th grade now, and she listens to the streams, and in school they're taking like a finance class, and she's like telling her dad how they're shorting Facebook, and she's like, yeah, I learned all about it at CT. It's beautiful stuff, Amy. If you get the opportunity, today's a really good session. I really think there's a lot of value in it. Do watch it. And thanks for being here, everyone, and being a part of it. Big shout out to everyone on the replay crew. Why is it that oil, why is it that WTI crude oil is getting weaker and the dollar breaking out? Well, we're seeing oil obviously getting stronger here, right? Let me jump back over to oil. Oil up on the session. It's been up on the week, and oil is continuing to rise over here. Even with the strong dollar, we're looking at oil being strong. Oh, you're saying, are we looking at, all right, hold on one second. Curation, you're looking at oil priced in dollars, and the price of oil rising in dollars as the dollar's getting stronger. If we were to put up like an inverse chart, let's do that over here. Let me just come to the dollar, or the DXY, I should say. This is a basket, and let's put up WTI together, and we could see that the correlation between the two. Let me say, maybe we're trying a weekly. I don't know. That's not really giving us any type of, except for the milkshake when the dollar short, but that's not signal over there. How about this? We have a rising dollar. Let me zoom in on this part over here, just maybe to point out the relationship a little for you. But over here you have the rising dollar and then the price of oil falling. And then would you have the inverse? Where can we look at when the dollar was really weak, right? Yeah, hold on one second and stay with me. I know that's not coming off easy. But if y'all remember back in 2000 into 2021, where we were looking at the US dollar, I'm trying to, is that better? Looking at a percentage basis. When we saw the dollar really weak, right? Right before the breakout. This is from the dollar milkshake in 2020. You saw the dollar come all the way down until we had the inverse head and shoulder breakout, right? And you can see the whole time that oil was rising on the weak dollar. Like, I know that you can't really see that well here. Here you go. You could do it like this. Like dollar milkshake, really strong dollar. And then this whole period of March through this 1 year, right? Year and 3 months of a really weak dollar. And during that time, that same time, you were looking at, right, that over here, that March up into that top, that really strong oil. So it's an inverse relationship normally, where you have, if you have a strong dollar, you'll see oil coming off. And if you have a weak dollar, oil rising. But at this point in time, you're seeing a strong dollar and you're seeing energy rising. You're seeing oil rising. And I think that's more just indicative of this new paradigm that we're in, as we look at, a period of rising rates, rising inflation, rising energy prices. So I don't think it's unusual today to see oil stronger than we've seen periods, and we'll see them again too, of when the dollar's rising and you see gold rising and Bitcoin rising, right? And we also look forward to a time of dollar milkshake theory plays out, of seeing not only rising dollar, but also rising U.S. equities because of the rising dollar and the inflows of foreign capital that will attract. I'm not sure whether or not that answered your question well, but I hope it did, and you're able to see that. Yeah, today's weird, but I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at the production cut coming out of OPEC. And when you look at also the soon-to-be, markets are forward-looking, depletion of that extra supply, that million barrels a day being put online by the drainage of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And soon, even though we have low demand right now worldwide, soon we're going to be like, we're not, the supply is also going to be low. So, and it's getting lower. So I think that's why we're seeing that today. And maybe then if the dollar was coming off today and you were seeing risk rallying, that move on oil might even be explosive to the upside today. All right, my friends, have a beautiful weekend. Thanks for the strong session, CTM strong. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. May God bless you. Have an incredible weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday.